My name's Ed. I'm with Onsite Mechanical. We're a semi-truck and trailer repair shop in Chicago, Illinois. We've been in business since November of 2004. This is our third location. We've moved locations 3 times, but we have about a 5-acre yard here with a 8,000 square foot shop focused mainly on fleet maintenance, preventive maintenance and repair, welding and fabrication.
Awesome. So Ed, I think you and I started working together mid Q3 last year. Talk to me a little bit about what the business was like before we started working together, like just day to day, kind of what was going on, what your problems were. And then obviously we can talk a little bit about which one of those issues we might have been able to help you out with.
In the past few years, we had generally depended on 2 or 3 large fleet accounts to carry the main workload for the shop. In 2024, the summer of 24, we lost our second large fleet account. They decided to build a shop and they brought all their maintenance in-house, which left us with only 1 large fleet account. I did start working with last quarter of 24. We did start working with another agency, but we did not see very good results. They did build us a nice website, but we weren't seeing any return on the ads that we were getting. I saw an ad for Repair Lift, and I figured it can't hurt to try, and we started working with Repair Lift around the late summer of 25. The first day the ads went live, we saw a dramatic increase in phone calls. I definitely knew something had changed, and we're getting a lot more, getting a good return for what we're spending on ads.
One customer making up, I think you said, what was it, like 50% of your revenue when we first started? I think one of the main reasons you had worked with that other agency when you came to us was because that was just too much of key customer risk on one account. First of all, what was the percentage of the business that customer was making up? And then what did that feel like in an ongoing basis, kind of just having that weight hanging over you?
At the time, we had 1 large fleet who we have a very long relationship with. We've been doing business with them for over 15 years. But having 1 customer had become that much of your business, although it provides stability, it also gives that customer a lot of power over you, and especially if they know that, because then they can negotiate cheaper rates, lower prices, because they know you're dependent on them. Plus, changes in the corporate structure of that company can make they can have a new fleet manager and we can be eliminated with very short notice, and that would be catastrophic for us. That would probably put us out of business. That customer towards the summer of last year was making up over 50%, sometimes 60% of our business. We needed to, although I appreciate all the business they give us, we needed to expand and get that so we had 2 or 3 customers at that level, so to give us balance and to make the business stable. One of the problems a lot of the shops that pop up and only last a couple years that I see is they tend to focus a lot with the owner operators. And although the owner operators, you generally don't have to float out a net 30 or net 45 or net 60, you're getting paid right away. They can also be very finicky, and they can be cheaper than the fleets themselves. Working with the large fleets, the mega fleets, provides stability, although you do have to cut back on your pricing a little bit, but the quantity and the reliability of the business is more than worth it.
Just to, obviously you're a veteran, you've been doing this 20 plus years. What would you say to a new guy in terms of what he should aim for in terms of customers? Should it be only fleets? Should it be only owner ops? Should it be small fleets, medium fleets, or what kind of mix of maybe all 3 should somebody be targeting if they want to last 20 years like you?
I would say try to get in with a couple of the large and mega fleets. Build some kind of relationship with them. They can provide stability even through, for instance, the crash of 2008. Almost everybody went out of business, and I boomed because I was cheaper than everybody else. And the shops that I had been working for prior to going in business went out of business in 2009. The large fleets will provide stability as long as you don't put all your eggs in one basket. 2 or 3 large fleets and then a mix of smaller companies. Owner ops, I do work for a lot of owner ops, and I do work for a lot of different owner operators, but I'm picky on who I take in because the owner operators are more likely to skip out on it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: do you have any good owner ops? Are there would you say there's good? Because you mentioned being picky. If it was up to you, would you just totally not work with them, or is there maybe 10 or 20 guys who, even though they're not those bigger fleets that you like working with, are good guys and you've worked with them for a while, or are they generally always going to get to a point where they just screw off on you?
No, not all of them are that. Not all of them are going to screw you. I've got probably about 20 or 30 guys that we still do work for, and I would float them out $10,000-$20,000 without batting an eye because I know they're good for it, and I've known them for 20 years or so. But
Gotcha.
you got to watch out for those guys that show up and ask for to open an account with you before they even paid for anything, because those are the guys that they're doing this all over town, and they've made their maintenance plan is to screw a bunch of shops.
I hear that. I hear that all too often, actually. So, but that's good. So it seems like the way that you prevent yourself from doing that with new businesses, you're just not extending terms to people you don't know, right? They pay up front and they're not getting their keys back until they pay you. Is that correct?
Yeah. And this is one of the other, I don't even know if I should put this in here, but you hit and I found this out the hard way, at least in the state of Illinois, you have very little legal recourse to collect. Even if you have the signed paperwork, in Illinois, you legally cannot withhold them from taking their truck after they work on it. And I've had a guy that we did some kind of job for, it was like $2,000, and he bounced the check on it. And I gave him his truck, check bounced. I filed a police report. Then the balls of this guy, he comes back in to complain that his ABS light is on after I did his brakes, after he bounced the damn check.
Come on.
So I took his wheels off and told him that he needed to, after I had all his tires off, I told him he needed to go to the currency or go to the ATM and pay me the money for the bounced check. He called the cops. Cops came. Cops told them that if I didn't put his wheels back on and let him go, that they were going to arrest me for stealing his vehicle. Really, you have very little recourse in getting paid, and it's amazing that there's not more instances or situations like that. It's not, I don't understand why it's this way. Maybe I should go to Ford and get a new set of tires and just tell them I'm going to take my car.
Okay, cool. That's a really interesting story. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned you were working with another marketing agency in 2024, and then you guys switched over to us. You gave us a little bit of a brief, but what was it like working with that agency in terms of like, I know you said you didn't really see the ROI you wanted, but in terms of like day-to-day stuff, was it pretty good experience outside of that, or were there any other things that you felt like maybe could have been handled a little bit better?
They seem like they're a larger company, and they were just trying to make numbers. I didn't know who my rep was. I hardly ever talked to him. I would send emails or make phone calls when I had questions about things, and I wouldn't get a response for a couple of days. The horrible part, and it was actually, I think, Corey, you did it on our first call when you searched truck repair with the street that I'm on, and I didn't come up on a Google.
Yeah, well, you didn't have a Google business profile, which is like that's basic 101, like the foundational floor. So I thought that was just really low hanging fruit. Is just setting that up, I think, was probably one of the major things that helped you guys notice that difference right away. But I think that was almost a year after mid 2024. Yep. That's really interesting. So that was your experience before. And then when you switched over to working with us, what did you notice? I mean, I know you already said earlier in the call that you noticed the phone ringing a little bit more right out of the gate. Was there anything else that was different about the repair lift experience versus the other diesel agency you were working with?
Obviously, they're much more responsive, and when I have questions or concerns about something, I can get a hold of somebody almost usually immediately if there's an issue, and they're Repair Lift's much more responsive than any other company that I had been working with.
You know, this is going to sound like a bit of a weird question, but do you believe that the people at Repair Lift care about you personally and your success with the business?
I do. I do, and I think that they're making efforts to prove their worth, and they're concerned that I'm seeing an ROI, and they want to justify their existence and prove it to me. And I see that, and it's evident.
Awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love at the beginning of every month when we get a message from you. You know, it's not always as good as the one we got last month, but usually the message is pretty good, and it's always ROI focused. You dig into your point of sale system and you give us feedback on really the stuff that you care about and the stuff that we care about, which is what's the customer ratio? Like, are we getting new customers? Because that was the main reason you wanted to work with us, was how could we diversify away from this one customer? And then also revenue increases. So speaking of that, you sent us a really great message at the beginning of April. Do you mind repeating that message for this video of what we were able to pull off in March together?
I can give you basically a summary. We had our best month in 7 years. The last time we had a month like this was back in 2019 when we had 3 large fleets at the time, one of them being a mega carrier who was doing over 100,000 a month with us. And we still had the large fleet that we're working with now, which averages around 50 to 60,000, and then another larger fleet that was averaging about 30 to 50,000 a month. That last month was the best month we had, and it wasn't a jump in just one customer. Our large accounts stayed within their normal range, about 75 grand last year, but we had 6 other customers that were in 5 digits over $10,000 in a monthly spend, and 2 of them were new customers. And I haven't seen as much work from them this month as I did last month, but they probably have a breaking in period where they have to get comfortable with us as well. But it was two large customers, and then a lot of owner op and good decent jobs last month.
Good stuff. And I believe, like, just looking at your back end system, I see like basically every day at least 1 or 2 leads kind of go unanswered, I think, because you guys are really busy. Are you around at or at 100% capacity right now?
That's kind of I'm almost always at 100% because I have 8 employees, and the trick of this is being able to line up work so that the shop's never empty. I don't think the last time the shop was actually empty was probably May of 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, was when we actually reached the point where I didn't have anything for the guys to do. But I generally stack up the jobs at the shop so that we have at least enough stuff to keep us busy for 2 weeks. Plus, with the large fleets, they're on a preventive maintenance program with a 90-day rotation for dry PMs and wet PMs on I think a 15,000 mile interval, and we have 230 units under contract with them. So there's always something for my road services guys to do.
Awesome. So, and now it sounds like you're just cherry picking the best jobs. Is that correct? Like, you're not adding other mechanics or other office workers to facilitate this extra work. You're just saying, hey, I want to grab these best jobs and kind of let the ones we don't want, or the owner ops we don't want to deal with, just kind of let them walk. Is that correct?
Yeah. We are developing my parts girl, or my parts lady. We're developing her more into the office, where she's starting to be able to create invoices and build work orders by herself, in addition to the office personnel we have. But as far as adding employees at this point, I'm not. I'm trying to develop the ones I have to do more. Almost every employee, with the exception of 2, have been trained in-house, had 0 experience.
Interesting. Cool. In terms of ROI, what was the number that you said you had your best number in 7 months? What was the number that you guys hit last month? And then, like, how does that compare to, I mean, you can either choose when we started working together, or like maybe a ballpark figure of the March before. Like, is March usually a pretty good month for you, or how does it compare?
It was 191,000 was last month. March does tend to be a better month. I'm not quite sure why. I have it written on the board as a reminder. In 2023, that was the last time we had 171, and in March, and then May of 2024 we hit 176. But this was in the last 7 years, that was the best month we've had since we were well over the 200 marks in 2019.
So 192 is the best mark you had in the last 7 years. You mentioned a 171 and a 176. Were those your second and third best months? Like, are you usually trending around, what is it, like 140, 125, 150, or what's that range look like? Maybe not even trending right now, but maybe before we started working together last, or when you were working with your other agency through 2024 to 2025, what were you floating around?
When we were working with the other agency, I have numbers written on the board. That's why behind me. Once we lost the second large account, it was the business was dying a slow death. For me to be happy, we're in the one where I want to be around 150 every month, and we were slowly going down 130, 120.
Your current concentration today for your top client has dropped to, like, I think 39% is what you told me in March.
Yes.
And how does that feel versus, like, obviously that's still, like, obviously a big number, but it's not 50, 60 like it was before. So how does it feel to kind of have that reduced somewhat?
It's good. It's healthy for the business, as long as that percentage is dropping and their revenue isn't dropping. That means the business is growing and becoming more healthy
and diversified. Yeah, absolutely. I just have a couple questions for you here. So, Ed, a big misconception that a lot of people have when they come to us is they think that, and just to kind of give the audience a little bit of a context, one of the things that we work together on is Google search, right? So basically targeting people who are at the bottom of the funnel, who have a need, who are already looking for a diesel shop, and we connect them with you. A lot of people think that's just small-time owner-operators and you can't get good accounts out of it. But there's two good accounts that stick out to me. One was a meat packing facility, which I believe had 26 trucks, and the other was a trailer company that I believe have 200 trailers, both of which originated from a Google search. Talk to me about those companies. I mean, I don't know if you're still working with those companies or anything like that. How are those accounts going? Are you progressing with those? And then what would you say to somebody who thinks that it's only the small kind of bad customer owner operators like you mentioned in the beginning that come from Google Ads?
Well, with the larger fleets, there's somebody making the decisions, and they don't always have a shop in the area that they use, and sometimes they have to search it out. Generally, people are going to Google search almost everything, and it's important that we're popping up. I've been trying to get in with the meat company for a number of years. I saw that they had a lot of trucks, and I saw that they had lift gates, which made sense because we're a Maxon distributor that they should come to us, but I hadn't been able to get into them until they looked us up on their own. The trailer company, this is the one that I'm thinking of, is a trailer leasing company. They found us by a Google search for liftgate repairs. They were having problems with finding somebody that could work on their lift gates, and they're actually one of they're a part of one of the largest fleets in the country. So it's a good customer to get your foot in the door with.
Cool. Would you say that they're like, for somebody who is looking at doing this type of advertising, obviously you got to spend money on these ads to get this traffic. Does this type of advertising make direct ROI? Or do you feel like there's a chance that they won't be able to profit from it? And if not, like what would be the reason that it wouldn't generate ROI for them? You know, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here with a question that maybe you hadn't thought of, but
it wouldn't generate ROI if you're not taking the calls and following up. One good service call is going to cover your ad spend for the week. I guess I say the one, but a week. I mean, we had one yesterday in Chicago Heights for a water pump, $2,300. I think that came off Google. It was what was it? It was over $1,000 in profit. So it was a good job, and that paid for about spending $1,000 a week on ads seems high, but there is no other real way to get your name out there. Before I started working with marketing agencies, the only advertising I did was a couple of websites, NTTSB and Truck Down. I paid for ads, but again, not everybody's going to go to the website. They're going to look for a truck breakdown website. A lot of times they're just going to go to the Google search and call who Google suggests. So it's important that your name's out there when they do that.
And you just mentioned $1,000 a week. I know at one point, for actually most of our relationship, I think you're actually spending closer to $2,000 a week. You dropped that down. Was that because you weren't getting an ROI on it, or was it just because you were just getting too busy to be able to support it?
I dropped it down because I wasn't able to follow up on the phone calls, and even if I was getting too busy, that I was getting too many phone calls that I couldn't handle, and there's no point in paying $2,000 a week for ads when you can't service the customers that are calling.
So like gun to your head, you have to, and you can only choose one form of advertising, and you have a new shop and it needs to be busy. What type of advertising would you do to generate quick work?
Google ads, definitely.
Interesting. I love when I ask that question, gun to your head, because it really forces you to kind of be like, okay, I have one thing, this is what I'm going to do. And you know, that's really cool that you see that, because obviously I'm on the other end of this. I see this every single day. So like, that's what I would do, right? If I had a gun to my head, hey, you need customers tomorrow in a diesel shop, what are you doing? This is for sure what I'm going to do. But obviously I'm the guy selling it. So it doesn't hit the same as, you know, when someone like yourself says it. So really cool.
It's your billboard in everybody's phone. Somebody's looking for what you're selling. They type it in and your name comes up. That has to happen. And it'll make you busy.
Just two more quick questions for you here, Ed. First of all, what's one thing that almost stopped you from signing up with us? Like when we first connected and we started working together, what's something that you were skeptical about, or something where you kind of maybe thought, oh, this would be a reason that I wouldn't go forward with it? Obviously you did, but just give me some insights into something that maybe you looked at and were a little bit hesitant or skeptical about, and the program, the deal structure, the company, anything.
I was hesitant to get into a long-term contract with any company. And I had been working with another marketing agency that was running TikTok videos for us. I was getting concerned my ad spend was going to get out of control. Where I think there was some months that we were spending like $15,000 on ads between two companies, and I needed to curl that back because at the time that was over 10% of our monthly revenue. That's a lot to make up. I think we got it down to we're optimized now. We're spending money where we need to spend it and not having it be wasteful, and we're getting the amount of work in that we can handle.
And this actually wasn't on my question list, but now that you bring it up, why did you make the decision to cut the TikTok spend and not the Google spend?
TikTok takes longer to become effective. And I'm not saying that it isn't effective, but it takes time for your name to be out there, for daily postings, for you to gain a following, so you show up on more people's feeds. So you're gonna spend a good $20,000-$30,000 before you start seeing a return.
So from what I'm hearing, basically you decided, hey, TikTok's great because it built a brand for us, but it doesn't generate any sort of immediate work. And with Google, these people are searching today, they need help today, and they're going to call me today. And that's why you made the decision to kind of cut the top of funnel stuff and just focus on the stuff that was going to provide a faster ROI. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Last question here for you. What would you say to a shop owner who's currently maybe talking to one of my sales guys right now and is on the fence about working with RepairLift? What kind of advice would you give that person?
I would definitely recommend doing the Google ads and getting a Google business profile and start working with a company that knows the ropes and with internet ads. I don't. I work on trucks. I don't know how to create a business profile or do any of this stuff, and that's why I pay somebody else. 20 years ago, a couple ads in a trucker's newspaper or mat on a greasy diner's placemat would be a good way to spend money to get business. And today, you need your name out there, and when people are looking for what you do, you need to show up in their Google search.
And you think RepairLift can help them get there?
Yes, RepairLift. I don't want to say this out there, but they're not a huge company, and you get the individual attention that you need. Some of the other companies that I worked with, I wouldn't get a response for several days when I had a question or a problem. They didn't even know what they were doing for me when I talked to them. So you get an account manager who works with you, and if you have a question, you probably can get somebody on the phone right away and get answers right away.
Awesome. Thanks. And one thing I'll just say, just so you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, RepairLift is not a huge company, but we do have about 40 employees. But the way that we structure our deals with our team members is we directly incentivize them based on what you spend with us. Mm-hmm. And we give them other bonuses as well related to customer experience and stuff like that, with the idea that, hey, when we do become a huge company, maybe with 50 or 100 employees or something like that, that we'll be able to deliver that same personalized experience for everybody. Because I think that's important, and I think even big companies should be able to pull that off. They get everybody lined up, with the same goal and stuff like that. Thank you so much, my man.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.